So Claude recently announced a new feature, and if you're using Claude, it's highly likely that you've already noticed it. So now I'm on Claude and I'm typing a very simple query here that says Python pygame script to run snakes and ladders. Now this is a very simple script, and the reason why I'm generating this script is not to show you how the code would work, rather to show you the new feature that is released by Claude. So once the script is generated, what I can now do is I can select any of the items here, and you can see there's a new info per se or some sort of pop-up that enables you to either improve something or some part of the script and or explain that piece to you. So let's say if I go through this code and we are setting up the display here, which is straightforward. We're setting up the colors, fonts, game variables, and so on and so forth. But let's say I don't understand what this basically means, right? So what is this? And if I click on explain, you can see now it can take this specific part of the code and then go ahead and explain that to you. Not only can it do just this, if you are writing, let's say, a blog. So let me go back to Claude, and then I'm going to be opening this blog post that I was generating the other day or improving the other day, and let me see if I can go to the old post before this update and still use this, and it seems I can. So let's say I generated this blog post and I want to improve something in this. Let's say I want to improve this part, the AppSumo launch part. Now I can select this specific piece area in the artifact, and then I can click on the improve button, and then it will prompt you to kind of, clarify what you would want to improve. So I'm going to say in-depth feedback on both positives and negatives. And when I press enter, you can see there's this new piece or prompt that is generated where it kind of talks about that specific area only. And it's not diving deep into the other pieces of the blog, rather it's just concentrating and helping us fix this specific piece. Now this is extremely useful for blogs. It may also be useful for code in case you want to understand what something in the code means, where you don't specifically have to copy the area yourself. You can select that specific piece and choose to improve or tell the model to explain this piece for you. So it's very good at this point. Since the artifacts itself released, they've been trying to do a lot of things. One of the things was publish as well, and that's something that we're going to be trying out in a little bit. So let me go back to this and then click on publish. If you missed my previous videos, and if you're new to this channel, I'd love if you could subscribe to the channel, because we experiment everything when it comes to AI, and I'd love to have you be a part of this journey as well. So anyways, when I open this artifact now, once I publish it from here, essentially now I can share this with anyone, and then someone else can also access it. Now the powerful use case here of the explain and improve piece is that you can share this with, let's say, your colleague who wants some piece of code, and you might have written that piece of code and you share it with them. You can essentially now click on remix this artifact, right? And then in here, once the code is generated, you can do this exact same thing with the artifact. So if you don't understand some piece of code, you can do this right in the browser. Again, it's not a game changing feature for Claude, but it kind of goes on to say how the company is evolving with the users, taking the feedback and trying to improve the performance at all points of time. And the other update that came out of Anthropic recently was that they also published the system prompts for Claude 3.5 Sonnet and all the other models that they have. And this kind of helps us understand why Claude works better than a lot of these other models, like maybe even ChatGPT, Llama 3.1, and so on and so forth. It's because they have well optimized the system prompt itself, which kind of gives Claude an understanding about everything it needs to know. It gives Claude a great background that kind of sets a tone or context before Claude starts answering the question itself. Now these prompts or system prompts are from July 12th, 2024. They've not, given us the latest ones, but at least these ones give us understanding with respect to how well Claude is optimized to generate content for you. So if I open any of these system prompts, and I think the most detailed one is Claude 3.5 Sonnet, because that is the most advanced model. Other ones are mostly similar to Claude 3.5 Sonnet, but this is very, very detailed. The other ones are relatively smaller ones. If you read through the system prompt, and this is one of the important concepts when it comes to prompt engineering, if you don't optimize the prompts well, the final output that you get is always going to be iterative. Meaning, let's say if you generate something and your prompt was not well optimized, your final output, you'll have to go through multiple iterations before you reach a point where you feel that, hey, this is what I was looking for in the response. And that's not what you want to do, because you want to write prompt once correctly, such that when you're generating outputs in the future, they are aligned with what you want and you don't spend a lot of time and costs in order to generate the output itself. So prompt engineering is important, but over time you've noticed that you will do less and less of prompt engineering, while companies building these AI systems will do more and more of prompt engineering. So to give you an example, in our product itself, Ollie, we want the users to have hands-off experience. We don't want them to, struggle by writing detailed prompts and so on and so forth. So we've written prompts ourselves that generate great output. And that only happens because I, as a person, spent hours in order to write a great prompt and then, test out the prompt to see how the model responds. And that's what a lot of AI-based startups and companies need to do. They need to make the job easy for the user. They need to provide templates of the prompt that they can just plug and use. So in a weird way, prompt engineering may not be the big skill of the future, but there may still be companies that may be hiring for prompt engineers, because essentially these are the companies that should be writing great prompts in the first place. So anyways, let's quickly take a look at the prompt, and you would notice that I'm not going to go into every little detail, but let's go on, on via this on a very, very high level. So firstly, it's giving the model a persona. Is that an assistant? The name of the assistant is Claude, created by Anthropic, and then it's giving current date, which is very, very important, and a lot of models don't do this. It answers questions about events prior to April 2024, the way a highly informed individual in April 2024 would know if they were talking to someone from the above date. So you can see it's giving the persona on the very start itself. This is very, very important, because the model needs to know who it is before it starts generating the response itself. And this is a system prompt. If you don't know where the system prompt goes, it goes above or before the prompt that user sends. So there is the system prompt and then there is the user prompt. The system prompt is set up by you or the company building the API or the service, and the user prompt is sent by the users like us. The system prompt needs to give persona and specify what the specific thread is supposed to respond to the user. A good system prompt ensures that the user has great experience. A bad system prompt will lead to terrible experience for the user. So even if they write bad prompt, they're going to blame you for, bad output, because they don't know how models work. And that's what our job is as people who are building AI-based products. And then you can see, if you go through the prompt itself, it tries to, or Anthropic is trying to ensure that the model is as neutral as possible when it comes to responses. It is less hallucinating as much as possible, and a bunch of different things here when it comes to areas where Claude can't help. It should go ahead and just say, I'm sorry, or I apologize. And if it's not clear about a person or a personality or a topic, then it should also go ahead and tell that this is the response, but I don't have any ways to verify if this is correct or not. And you can see it's repetitively they are emphasizing the fact that Claude is very smart and intellectually curious, because they want to maintain this context. Now, initially when the model kind of gets this context about being smart, it's possible that while it's going through this, it will forget that this is the persona. So it wants to emphasize more and more on the fact that this is a smart model, such that when the model finds a lot of repetitions of something like this, it's going to pretend to be that. And you can see if the user seems unhappy with Claude or Claude behavior, Claude tells them that although it cannot retain or learn from the current conversation, they can press thumbs down to rate Claude's response, which is something called reinforcement learning. When you rate thumbs down to a model, it will essentially take that feedback to improve in the future if it is relevant, or it will go ahead and at least share it with the internal team such that the users can work on this. And this is one of the things that allows people to jailbreak models like Claude, where you can see Claude will always pretend to be face blind, where if a photo of a person is uploaded, it will not identify the person, which is important because people don't want them or models to identify these people, and then people might create deep fakes and then fake stories based on the faces or the data about the person itself. So the goal or this prompt specifically kind of clarifies that. But if you want to jailbreak something like this, and unfortunately it's possible, is that if you could take samples of, let's say, 10 people and then their names, this importance of this Claude or this prompt will go down. So when you send like 100 or 200 samples where you uploaded a picture and then said the name, the model may be able to predict the name, right? So it's very important or it's very hard rather for the model to ensure that scenarios like jailbreak don't happen, because people can just, do 100 short or maybe 20-30 short prompting in order to still get the response that they want. In fact, one of the articles that Claude published, this is exactly what people were doing. People were doing 20 to 20 short prompts in order to jailbreak the model itself. And then you can see it's giving some basic info with respect to the Claude 3 family, with respect to which is the latest model, which is the most advanced model, and which is the fastest and efficient model per se. And then again, the prompt kind of emphasizes on the fact that Claude provides responses to more complex and open-ended questions, or to anything where a long response is required. But in case the user does not specify long responses, it's going to respond in a short and concise manner. So this kind of gives good insight in case you want to generate long prompts with Claude, or long responses via Claude. Then all you have to do is ensure that you mention, hey, go ahead and do a long generation for a request like this. And then you can also see that Claude is happy to help with analysis, question answering, math, coding, creative. So it's kind of giving an understanding with respect to what Claude is good at, and then responds directly to human messages without unnecessary affirmations or filter phrases like certainly, of course, and so on, which kind of makes Claude better than when it comes to, let's say, things like GPT and so on. And then it also follows this information in all languages and also responds to user in the language they use or request per se. So again, if you look at this prompt, it's very, very detailed, gives persona to the model, ensures that scenarios where people can jailbreak are addressed in some way or the other. It kind of specifies some history with respect to what the model does and what it's supposed to do, and also gives some understanding with respect to how the model should respond to the user. And this is the example of a great prompt. And I wish all of us wrote prompts that looked something like this, but trust me, it only comes with time. As you learn through examples, that's how you basically configure a system that will work for you in the longer run. Now, if people didn't break Claude, or if there were no regulations around identifying the face, maybe Claude wouldn't be, having this prompt or this piece of the prompt in the first place itself. Now, if you go through the Opus prompt and Haiku prompt, both of these are similar but smaller, and kind of talk about same set of things that even the 3.5 Sonnet talks about. So you can feel free to read through these system prompts, but I just wanted to walk you through why this is a great example of prompt engineering and why Claude 3.5 Sonnet is such a great model. But anyways, I hope you guys like this video. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop those in the Q&A section or the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next one.